Hey guys, this video is going to be for your snow day activity, and so we're going to be learning about Pixlr while you guys are at home today. And so what you want to do is you want to open up Google Chrome first, and up in the top right here, you're going to see that there's an apps button. You could also type in to your browser Chrome Web Store, and that would come up. So either way, you can get there. If you click on the apps button, you're just simply clicking on the little store icon here. And either one of those will get you to the Chrome Web Store. So the Chrome Web Store is great because it has apps and extensions that we can add to our Chrome browser that allow us to perform different tasks. Just like applications installed on our desktop, they're just web-based and free. And so I'm going to type in here to the search Pixlr, and I want the Pixlr editor. And so I'm going to hit enter. And you're going to see that the first one up here at the top is Pixlr Editor. And you can actually see right here it says rate it because I've already added it. So yours is going to have this blue free button in its place. So you want to click on that so that it actually adds it to your Chrome Web Store. Now, once you do that, you're ready to go ahead and use Pixlr. So you'll click back on that apps button, and it will take you back to all the apps that you have. And if you have multiple apps, you might not see down here at the bottom that you can scroll through the pages. But here is my Pixlr editor. It looks like a butterfly with a little pencil. And so you're going to click on it to go into it. Now, like I stated, Pixlr editor is very similar to Photoshop. However, it is free. But you'll see that some of the tools and some of the features are very, very similar to what we use in Photoshop. So what I want to do is I just want to kind of give you an overlay of how you can use it and where you can find certain features that I had trouble finding. So I always like to open with an image. So I'm going to open image from computer. And it may take a little bit of time to load. And then you can go and you can find an image that you're going to be working with. So I'm going to go to my Google Drive. Let's see here. And I'm going to find my image. And so it's just going to pop that right into Pixlr. And up here at the top, you can click the little expand so that it expands it all the way out. So again, I just use the little restore minimize button here to do that. So the first thing you'll notice over here on the right, Navigator we've never really used, but basically it just kind of allows you to zoom in. You can move this little red box here that you see around so that you can see different parts of the photo. You can zoom it back out again. You have your layers. If you want to unlock your background layer, you just double click on that little lock icon and it brings it so that way you can actually edit it. You'll see that rather than the eye icon, we have the check mark that allows us to hide and show that layer. We can double click on the word layer 0 and name it Cooper and I and hit enter or click off to apply that layer. Down at the bottom here you can add new layers, so you can add another layer. Maybe we're going to call this background color. Just like in Photoshop, you can rearrange those so that background goes below Cooper and I, or that it goes above. Down at the bottom here, you also have some other options. This first little guy right here is your opacity. So if I clicked on the picture of Cooper and I, and then I minimize the opacity, you can see how that changes it. You also have your blending options where you can actually go in and you can change those. Depending on what the blending option is, it may not really change, and really it's going to change based on the other image that's in there with it with the layers, so it does work a little bit differently. The layer next to it, or the option next to it, is your layer mask, and so you know how that works from Photoshop. You can come up to edit and undo to get rid of anything, just like we do in Photoshop. The icon next to that is your FX button, so your layer style, so adding your drop shadow, your inner shadow, bevel, things like that. And we've already looked at the new layer, and then of course your trash icon. So all of that's pretty similar in the way that Photoshop is run. You also have your history panel here, which you can click back up and click back down to change your history. Then we have our toolbar over here on the left. We have some similarities, some differences, some features we don't necessarily have. So I can use my crop tool here, which you can see I'm on from the toolbar, to actually crop it out. It's a little bit different where you actually create the crop section and then go from there rather than it automatically applying. But once you hit enter, it will crop that image. Your move button allows you to move an image around. So if I click on Cooper and I move that, I can move that picture around again. I can go to edit, undo, or use the history to do that. Rectangular marquee I can use. I can select something on my screen. So let's say I want to start to get rid of this background. I can select a piece of it. I can hit delete. It's going to get rid of that. I can add to that selection by holding shift like we do in Photoshop. And you can see I've added. The difference here is that control is subtracting rather than your alt. So there you can see I've subtracted. Control D is the select, just like it is in Photoshop. We have the lasso tool. Again, seen in Photoshop, we can use it to make a selection, delete. Again, Control D to get rid of that. We have the magic wand. Notice at the top, by the way, that I'm getting all those different preferences. So I could change the tolerance for my magic wand to 50, and then I can click somewhere on the image. If it's selecting too much, remember it depends on the variation of colors that you're telling it to select. So I can change that to 30 and reselect and see if that's getting a little less. Still getting a little bit of my hand, so I may not be able to use that. Brush tool, pencil tool, just like you have in Photoshop. Eraser tool. Notice up here at the top, you can change the diameter by coming here or by coming here and clicking. And then you can change that. The diameter is going to be larger if the image is larger. Also notice this is a soft brush. You also had hard brushes and star brushes, all different types of ones. You also have the opacity there where you can change the opacity, so we can just kind of get rid of that. You can see the one issue that I do have with this software is that it does lag a little bit because it is web-based. And so with pictures that seem to be a little bit more complex, a little bit larger, you can see that you're going to have a little bit of issue with the lag. But overall, if I just take my time, I can get a pretty good selection or, get rid of what I'm trying to get rid of. Also, just kind of clicking helps as well. So a couple of different things you can do. I have my fill bucket. I can come down here to the bottom. I can select a color like red, and then I could come to, let's say, the background color and fill, and you can see how that fills that. I have my gradient tool, so if I wanted to undo that, I could come up to my gradient. I could choose a preset gradient. I could also click on my ink bottles just like I do in Photoshop, and then click on the color here and find my color to add that in. So again, you're clicking on the ink bottle, clicking on color, and this here, the outside kind of moves to the shades, and then in the middle is where you're actually selecting the color. You can also do RGB, web-based colors, which is really just clicking, and images. So if you wanted to use a certain image, you could actually add that in there. I'm just going to use a preset one right now to just kind of show you guys. Notice only two options here for the gradient, and then I can click and pull down, and it applies that gradient there. Again, I could come in and I could lower the opacity of that layer to, change the way it looks a little bit. You have your clone tool, just like you have anything else. Again, you may need to resize that brush to really get a good idea of what it's like. Now remember, I'm going to click anywhere to get off of this. Alt is our normal key in Photoshop, but in this tool, it's Control. So if you're making that selection, and I'm on the wrong layer, If you're trying to make that selection and get that copy, then you need to come over and hold Control and then come over and click, and that's going to start to do that cloning for you. We never use the art history brush or the replace color, so that tool you probably won't use as much, but you can certainly try it. You've got your different drawing tools, so up here at the top, you know, you can use lines, circles, squares, you can fill those things. You still have things like your blur tool, your sharpen tool, your sponge tool, your sponge tool, your smudge tool, your dodge tool, and your burn tool, all things that we've seen in Photoshop. Spot healing tool works well, but not very well. Red eye reduction, which we don't have in Photoshop. The bloating, which is what we've done in Avatar. And if we haven't covered this yet, this is a pre-designed activity that I've made in advance. So depending on the year, this may change. But if you click on something, you can see how it's kind of bloating out my face there, and now my face really isn't visible. But that is the way that you use the bloat tool. It basically changes it. And so your pinch tool is going to be the opposite. It's really the way that people make themselves look skinnier by going in and pinching the area. You've got your eyedropper, your text tool, double click on the hand tool to make it fit the screen, and your zoom tool. So all of those things are there. So the last things that we want to look at is our menu bar at the top. If we go to File, this is where you can open an image, save an image. If you go to Edit, this is where your free transform tool is. This would be if you're actually trying to rotate or change the size of the image. Whereas if you want to do something like the skew, you're going to be doing free distort, and it really only does the skewing where you can kind of flatten it out. It doesn't have all the options like envelope and things like that, but you can see kind of how that works. Select all, deselect, invert selection, which is one we like to use a lot. Image, you can rotate it, you can change the size, you can flip it. Layers, adding new layers, all that kind of stuff you see in Photoshop. Adjustments, just like when we go to image adjustments in Photoshop, you have a lot of those features there. Old photo is pretty cool. I really liked the way that that one looked. You also have your filters, things like blurs. I liked the glamour glow. I thought that was pretty cool. So you can use those again if you don't like them. Just use the history to get rid of it or add it back. View is going to be, you know, your different toolbars over on the left, your panels on the right. Language would clearly be if you're going to be using a different language, and then you can always go to help. So you're going to go back to Haiku, and you're going to see the activity that you're going to be assigned today. I really just want you to play with this and have fun, and you're going to be doing a fun activity where you just kind of change your self-portrait in a certain amount of ways, and so I want you guys to be creative. You're also going to be doing a discussion post. You can go to the discussion and read my example, and also look at my example of what I did in Pixlr. Hope you're enjoying your snow day, and I will see you guys back at school.